idea of normal identity as a unit was a directly observation process in relation to the English over 70 years later. This picture is well synthesized by Half David by Wolff. When that state has been reached, our notion of a real distinction between normans and English has vanished, because the normans have projected themselves with the past and identified themselves with the pre-Norman history of England. Both imaginatively and materially, that history was very much richer than the pre-Norman history of Normandy. It already had a copy of the territory. The Normans adopted it as a history of the land and made their land their own by covering it with their palaces and castles, their cathedrals and abbeys, their parish churches, and their ancestral homes, so that every town and village took a new appearance and proclaimed their lordship. They belonged to England as much as England belonged to them. It is in this context that we are interested in identifying and discussing some elements of the reception, maintenance, and transmission of an idea of Norman myth from one of the principal writings of the Norman chronicler Henry of Huntingdon, the Story and Glory. As we proceed with a reconstruction of the life of Henry of Huntingdon, we will not discuss here all the inconsistencies and gaps present in the construction of a life or exercised by the biographic individual. Pierre Bourdieu explored not only the inability to trade the multiplicity of a life on the part of the author, but also sought to highlight the problem of the excessive rationality of the subject's biography in a series of examples. We intend to point out and organize some useful information prevalently synthesized by contemporary historians who seek through this report to understand how the biographical information contained in much of his work gives space for interpretation about the behavior of his character. We use the reasoning proposed by John Gilligan, Jenna Greenway, and Antonio Grantham. Being the son of Nicholas, Archdeacon of Huntingdon, Henry had access to the skillful cathedral of Lincoln and the teachings of Albinus of Angers. To Albinus, Henry had the first contact with the court of Henry I. For Jenna Greenway, the formation of Henry of Huntingdon from the studies proposed by Albinus inserted him not only in the practices common to the class, but in the field of writers in the Anglo-Norman world. With history being allocated between the study of grammar and rhetoric, Henry developed the study of Latin grammar and eloquence models of antiquity. Although Henry was very cautious about the denial of the use of classical references as elements of his work, it would be unenable the use of such references as a model transmitted to the reader. However, it would be only from the bishop of Alexander of Blois that Henry of Huntingdon would have received the proper incentive to proceed with writing a history of the English people, and would have established his position within the royal court. From this scope, the motto chosen by the author, also greatly encouraged by the Bishop of Lincoln, would have been that of Bede the Venerable, since certain manuscripts of his work were also in the library of his cathedral. In terms of the reception of what we might understand as a Norman myth, according to Antonia Granzing and Elizabeth von Hall, the Archdeacon of Huntingdon would have access to the manuscript of the Norman chronicler William Poitiers, William Jumièges, and Diderot of Saint-Quentin. All this intimately linked to the ducal and royal Norman power, and directly responsible for the creation of the Norman myth during the 11th century. The meritorious circulation of the Modibus of Diderot and the Gesta Normanorum of William of Jumièges demonstrate the constant effort of the Norman royal power in the maintenance of this myth, an effort also accompanied by Henry. Writing to an audience attached to the Norman court, Henry should excel the achievements of his people, as well as enjoy intelligibility in the material reality of the successive conquest which England had historically suffered. In this sense, we understand that the Story and Glory, as well as the scope coming from Bede, would be but the product of a certain perception of the chronicler, as Hans Vermeer suggests. For the series of the writings of the 11th century, historians should be interested in various cultural elements of the perception of reality to which the chroniclers inserted, and this should be told beyond the simple bio chosen by the author. One of the critical points for understanding the maintenance of the Norman myth through the Story and Glory is the analysis of the narrative of the Battle of Hastings made by this analyzed author. For modern historians like Stephen Murillo and Robert Bartlett, Hastings would be the climax of the Norman conquest of England, as well as one of the primary objects of the Norman and Anglo-Norman historiography, and thus A central narrative object in the impetus of the authors in the time demonstrated certain values dear to the Normans, especially an idea of martial virtuosity. This narrative focuses on the figure of the Norman Duke William II, who by means of a battle rank organizes the memory of his invasion army against the Anglo-Saxon defenders, led by Harold Godwinson. Of all the rhetorical strategies present within the narrative of Henry of Huntingdon, an ethnogenic digression within the fictional discourse of the Norman Duke stands out. This digression refers to Rollo, considered the first count of the Normans. From the treatise of St. Clair's Wax, I quote the author in this passage. Did not Rollo, my ancestor, the founder of our nation, with your progenitors, conquered Paris, the king of the Franks, in the heart of his dominions? Not could he obtain off and respite until he humble offered possession of the country which for rules called Normandy with the hand of his daughter. This ethnogenic digression replaces the memory and identity of the Normans in evidence. Shows not only a certain habitus that the regime of curiosity in which the author is inserted proposes, but also the relation of denial of the Frankish royal authority over the Normans, the very character of identity. It is important to remember that for Maria Ligia Prado, identity always has the character of political authority. That is, it is based on a construction on the basis of the negation of the other. In other words, of what one does not want to be. In addition, the narrative is part of a scenario of deterioration of the Frankish-Norman relations, especially after the Battle of Weymouth. During the construction of the same ducal rank, the author, citing another episode concerning the denial of the Frankish authority, motivates his warriors to fight against the Anglo-Saxons. I quote, "But why do I go back to former times? When you, in your own time, engaged the French at Monmouth, did not the French prepare to fight the battle, and use the spoils instead of the souls? While half the French commander being slain, you reaped the fruits of victory, the honor, and the spoil as natural results of your wanted success." In addition to this denials to the other, Henry of Huntingdon's equally narrative effort to indulge the Normans with martial virtuosity would also be an attempt to straighten the idea of imagined community, where we take the concept of Benedict Anderson. This idea had initially been elaborated by Didion of Saint-Quentin in the Modibus et Actis Primoro Normanniae Ducum, and consequently straightened by the first generation Norman chroniclers in the post-conquest. The materiality of the circulation and transmission of the Norman myth in the story and glory also allow us to identify some elements concerning to the games of power in the Anglo-Norman world. In the first place, it is important to emphasize that the story of glory, in comparison with older historiographical narratives, central to the analysis of the Normans, enjoyed a sensible circulation. The reason for this is in part justified by Diana Greenway in her works. The prevalent habit among medieval chroniclers of appropriating large portions of early stories with or without acknowledgement to make elements of them is widely known, but that they become ingredients of the great mass of diversely sources material that continue to be transmitted in various forms as the history of England, until the creation of the modern critical historiography in the later years of the 19th century. Thus, starting from the premise that the plagiarism in the West was not understood as an addiction, but treated as authority according to Barry Smalley, the manuscript of the story survived in 45 whole copies and almost incontable number of fragments. This work reached the hands of the author Monmouth and Robert Wrigley, both Normans, in the decades of 1130 and 1140, respectively. Monmouth is known for being the author of History of the Kings of Britain, being the first to organize and structure the so-called Furious Circle, the most famous part of the Master of Britain. When we observe the meritorious circulation of the text in question by ecclesiastical institutions linked to the Anglo-Norman universe of the 11th to the 13th centuries, we believe there is a certain political and cultural impact, where the legitimation of the Norman royal power occupies a central place. This brings us to stress the premise that a medieval text is also understood as a legal document for excellence, characterizing itself as a compilation of histories and commons of a particular ecclesiastical and/or lay community. Nevertheless, it is important to point out that the survival and circulation of the narrative was only possible thanks to the games of power related to the governments of Henry I and his successor, Stephen of Blois. More than that, was given to the behavioral vicissitudes of the author in the work in relation to the fields of power and intellectuality. Although Henry of Huntington was many times presenting himself as a critic of aspects of the monarchy exercised by Henry and Stephen, many of his narratives of the Norman fits embodied with panegyric tones. We believe, therefore, that Huntington's appropriation of a model originally employed by Bede the Venerable is directly associated with the success of the work, its good circulation, and especially with regard to reforge the Norman myth. In this way, and here we follow the same line, John Flanagan points out that during the beginning of the reign of Stephen I, Huntington proceeded with a movement of self-identification with the Norman monarchy, besides assuming for himself the poems contained within the Historia, previously anonymous according to the author. Such poems were signed at the end with the word Ita Dixit, some say, having been later erased and redone with the words Ita Dixit, thus we say. Finally, the eloquent speech of the future King William I was built on an ethnic cultural regression, centered on the figure of Rollo. This is cursed out of the origins of the Norman people, not only their warlike and moral deeds as an instrument of affirmation or reaffirmation of identity, but included in the same narrative the premise of the negation of the other. In this way, we believe that Henry of Huntington used a rhetorical strategy not previously observed in other chroniclers, which leads us to interpret the author and the work as a very specific corpus within the Anglo-Norman literary tradition. In the same movement of identity maintenance, Anglo-Saxons, represented by the figure of usurper King Harold Godwinson and the Frankish people, were understood as an antagonistic population to the Normans, whose accomplishment this chronicle tries to simulate to the mentioned people, and even dismiss them before the Normans. As historiography points out, the gens Normanorum in the period corresponding to the writing and circulation of the Historia Anglorum was an ethnic cultural searching process by the Anglo-Saxon population residing on the island. The initiative of treating in laudatory colors the deeds of the Norman would represent, if not the need to maintain the identity of its conquerors, in the face of a process that amalgamated Anglo-Saxons and Norman cultures into synthesis. Given the reading, this synthesis promoted, then, the disappearance of the Norman identity as a people, whose unique characteristics will be narrated by Henry. Thank you.